I'm very happy to be here, and now I will talk a little about the problems in the Swedish municipalities. I won't go into them very much. I would look from above at the governing of the municipalities and their implementation of LSS. So I will tell you a little about two specific governance problems in implementing LSS that I have done some research on, but I think that they have general implications. There are two specific studies, but I think the governing problems are well known all over the country. And the first is municipal exercise of authority, that is to be granted LSS support. And the second is the appropriateness, ändamålsenligheten, of the enforcement of LSS decisions, that is the performance support. Jag hoppar fram och tillbaka. Men det kan, and then I want to try to ask, does Sweden violate the CRPD and LSS rights to independent living? I can say yes, but I will talk a little about the obstacles and what can be done. So why do we have LSS? The Social Services Act from 1980 was not considered sufficient to meet the needs of persons with severe disabilities. And there was an important goal to have equal access and equivalence, that is the same high quality. Vad händer? Hoppar hörseln. Ja. The same high quality in exercise of authority and performance of support. That is everything connected with LSS. And that should be the same all over Sweden. And that is a very strong government intention in the government bill on LSS. And it is also an intention in the committee directives for the LSS investigation from May 2016. It should not matter where you live, and we all know it does. One very important thing with LSS is that it shifts power to the individual. The concept influence is only present in LSS, not in the social services law. And influence is that you can manage, you can control your life situation. It's a stronger word than, for instance, that you can decide things together with others. Influence is power. And LSS is more favorable than SOL. It is a plus law. That is written in the bill, that it is to be better, the social services law. Otherwise, we wouldn't have it. And LSS has higher ambitions, enhancement of citizenship and control over life situation. And another important thing is that LSS is a priority legislation. When there are needs that entitle LSS support, then resources must be allocated to meet needs. The municipalities can never say we don't have money. They do, but they can't say that in the individual case. Then the court says, no, can't say that. The implementation of many welfare reforms like LSS is decentralized in Sweden to the local political bodies. We know that, and that is the municipalities and the county councils, the latter not so much. And public welfare rights, as those of LSS, are transmitted to concerned citizens through the so-called parliamentary chain. The parliament decides and the public service performs. And they do that, the rights come hopefully to the citizens because of the duties that are laid on different actors. And case law, rättspraxis, precedents, I've just learned from Tom that is the usual word. Is case law, is that a word used by us? Or should I say precedents? Is that better? Oh, rättspraxis i alla fall. And prescripts, that is föreskrifter by, for instance, the National Board of Health and Welfare. Those things clarify the law. And I use the concept parliamentary chain to make it clear that governance is intended to be unidirectional. The law puts duties on the actors so that the citizens get their rights. So the politicians always have the ultimate responsibility for a lawful implementation. And as Nicholas says, the accountability, that we can count on the politicians to take their responsibility, is very important. So the involved actors, we know them well. The government, which prepared LSS, and the parliament that decided upon the reform. And the local politicians, municipalities and county councils are the principals, huvudmän. I don't know if there is another better English word, but they are the responsible parties. And we have also the Social Insurance Agency, SSIA, which is principal together with the municipal politicians for the support personal assistance. And then we have the local government officials, förvaltningscheferna. They prepare and carry out the decisions of the local politicians. And the administrative officers, handläggarna, I think is administrative officer a good word, or shall I say social worker för handläggare? Is social worker better? Yes, so I do that. They handle the exercise of municipal authority, that is myndighetsutövningen. And hopefully the concerned citizens enjoy or do not enjoy the LSS support. There are prerequisites for a successful implementation of the LSS reform. 3 prerequisites. My English is old, or I am old and my English is bad, that is correct to say. 3 prerequisites are necessary for successful implementation, as most other reforms, that involved actors have the will, the understanding, and the capacity to do so. As we shall see, this is not always the case. So if we look at the governance of LSS, we all know that LSS is a strong rights law based on values that shall ensure individual citizenship to persons with severe disabilities. But in reality, those rights are not always transmitted to concerned citizens as intended. That is the main problem we have here in Sweden. It is well known from experience and research that the public servants govern the implementation, not the politicians. One famous earlier researcher, Niskanen, said that we think that it is the politicians that see to it that implementation is performed in the right way. but we have a public service that goes their own way. The politicians are, they come and go, the public service remains. The politicians are dependent on their public service, both for planning policy, that is the input, and executing policy, the output. But that is not determined by fate. Patterns can be broken, and politicians must govern their public servants to secure a lawful implementation of LSS. And that is also our fundamental point of departure when we try to change the world. The governing principles in LSS and CRPD, they are rather similar, but not quite. LSS grants individual rights, the 10 different support measures, and the governing principle is shall. The word shall, that is a strong word that has impact when you have to go to court if you have been denied the support. LSS entitles unconditional rights to support in presence of needs that are considered eligible for the specific support that you ask for, and unfavorable decisions can be appealed to the administrative court. That is the legal background. And CRPD, the convention has been ratified but is not included in Swedish law. You, Lars, said that, and that we all know that, and that is a problem as we see it. And so the governing word shall is thus more of a vision without a corresponding duty. But concrete duties, more or less specified and wide-reaching, can, however, be included in Swedish law if and when there is a political will to do so. We also have legally binding prescripts. Föreskrifter. Is anybody here from the National Board of Health and Welfare? You do that. Very good. And I hope for more prescripts from you, legally binding. I will talk more about that. In the case of LSS implementation, 4 authorities are especially relevant. The National Board on Health and Social Welfare, Socialstyrelsen, Karin, the Social Insurance Agency, SSIA, Försäkringskassan, the Health and Social Care Inspectorate, Inspektionen för vård och omsorg, IVO. Is anybody here from those? And the Swedish Agency for Participation, Myndigheten för delaktigheten, MFD. And the prescripts that are given, the government tells the board to board and the authorities to make prescripts, and those bind the principles. That is a very important thing, because that is not always done. They don't know about the prescripts in the municipalities. So the implementation of LSS is governed by several prescripts issued by the National Board of Health and Welfare. One legally binding prescript, especially important, is SOSFS 2014:5. It prescribes documentation of different perceptions of needs and how they can be met, as well as the assessment whether needs are met in another way. And the National Board of Health and Welfare also has issued a handbook on exercise of authority and documentation in the social service. And here the board describes the work to assess the right to LSS support. That is to seek the answers on the following 3 questions. Does the person belong to any of the 3 circles, det vill säga personkretsarna that are encompassed by LSS. The second, does the person need the support applied for to be ensured good living condition? That is the very important quality concept that is typical for LSS. For the Social Services Act, we have decent living, a decent living level, a decent living level. And the third question, is the need of the support provided in any other way? And to be observed, so we can see from this description that it does not use any governing words. It is more of an offer of knowledge to tell how you can do, that the involved actor can take or ignore depending on the will of responsible local politicians and government officials and social workers. I don't know if Karin agrees, but that is how I see it and I have found in my research. So, the first problem, municipal exercise of authority to be granted LSS support, and results in short from my study to get and keep LSS support on municipal exercise of authority in Uppsala. It is work in progress, but I have a little document for that. We continue in Uppsala with activist work to implement the results. And I find that social workers use limiting strategies to diminish or change needs of support so that there is no right to LSS support. The LSS values do not seem to govern the exercise of authority. The work process is more like that according to the social services law. And the consequence is that the concerned individuals do not get their legal rights to good living conditions so that they can live an independent life like others and participate in societal life. So the conclusion is that the municipality violates the CRPD Article 19 and several others, and LSS rights to independent living through an unlawful exercise of authority. So that is my conclusion. And the most important finding, I would say, is that the social workers do not use the clause on influence. And that value, as I said, is only stated in LSS. And they do not seem to follow the prescript that is issued by the National Board. No documentation on different perceptions of needs and how the disagreements can be overcome was found in the investigations. Neither do the local politicians nor the local government officials seem to be aware of these prescripts. It was great news for them when we told them. And I have 5 statements from this report on the implementation of LSS that I think are typical and that many of you who are working or have experiences from the municipalities you can relate to them. We trust our officials to professionally exercise municipal authority, says the local politician. It does not matter if LSS or SOL is used in the exercise of authority. The laws have the same values, say the local politicians, the government officials, and the social workers. We do not implement Clause 6 in the exercise of authority only when granted LSS support is performed, says a local government official. We use case law, that is precedents, and contact with other municipalities for advice on the exercise of authority, says a local government official. You can always appeal to the administrative court, say many social workers, and that is of course right, but it's not what you want to hear. So comment on the statements. The first three statements clearly show that the politicians abdicate from their responsibility to govern the public service and to secure a lawful exercise of authority. And the fourth statement on precedents and case law and knowledge through contact with other municipalities can be a sign of problematic administrative culture with an ethos that is not in line with the LSS values. The status of precedents as a right source, that is rättskälla, in relation to what is stated in the LSS bill is a contested issue. The results, however, only show limiting case law, not favorable for the individual. But it is, the precedents mean a lot, but the question is how much. The fifth statement, an appeal to the administrative court, is relevant in connection with influence. And it is a problem where there is a lack of opportunity to discuss conflicting perceptions on needs and the appropriate of the LSS support in question. No opportunity to get the correct assessment from the beginning was given, and that is it's my standard answer to everything is do the right thing from the beginning. Because a legal process may be very frustrating, but eventually give the right to support, but it takes a long time. So, if you look at the parliamentary chain and the municipal exercise of authority, I will just say that, as I've mentioned, nothing is really governing the public servants. So the governance along the parliamentary chain is weak. It does not function according to the intention of LSS. If we look at this picture, I think it is rather, you can think from that LSS, prescripts, and case law, that is precedents, they all have impact on the different actors. To the left, we have the local politicians and local government officials. And in the middle, we have the social workers who are loyal to the local politicians, but they should also regard the rights of the citizens. And that is a problem. So, in short, the challenges for the future, of course, is a lawful exercise of authority. And I ask for national initiatives, that is more use of prescripts to ensure that, and a follow-up that the prescripts are followed. I think I just tell you very shortly about the second problem, that is about appropriate LSS support and appropriate performance of support, that is utförande, because it is not enough to be granted a favorable decision of LSS support. That must be followed by an appropriate performance of support, high quality work by competent staff in order to ensure good living conditions and the fulfillment of goals in different life areas. But I don't think I will not have the possibility to tell you so much about it more than we have a very strong municipal autonomy in Sweden. So the performance of support is dependent on the will. And the problem is that LSS, as well as the preceding government bill, is not clear on how the municipalities can or should act when the need situation of the concerned person is complicated and cannot easily be met by the regular organization of municipal support. So I wanted to talk a little about these complicated cases. It is a problem even for persons who have more regular needs that easily can be met in the different municipalities. But experience from disability organizations and show that there are some very small groups, but they are the persons are spread all over the country. And not always can the municipality see to it that the needs are met, because special competence performed in a specially suitable environment may be needed. And then the municipality has to purchase the support in another municipality, and that doesn't work very well. So that is the problem. We have the problem of house arrest, you can't move, and you can also have a forceful home taking. I think you have all read about different court rulings that it is difficult to move and to get the support. For instance, if you have lived for a very long time in a social therapy environment and the municipality wants to take the person home, that is one group, and another group is persons who need sign language environment. Maybe I might have to stop